So welcome everyone to another insightful Legal Tech Talks in conjunction with NetDocuments. My name is Frances Anderson. I'm the CEO of NetLaw Media. And I'm actually delighted to welcome you all here today for part 2 of the AI series with NetDocuments, where we are going to be discussing use cases in AI, engage with your stakeholders. Now, today, what we're going to look at, we're going to go through promises and pitfalls and the journey from automation to Gen AI, balancing client demands and delivering expectations, looking at the challenges and with stakeholder engagement, and also the internal learning journey, and much more. Now, we have 4 special guests with us today, and all of which are thought leaders in their own right, where we're going to be discussing their journey with automation, AI, and the key ingredients to ensure a successful uptake. Additionally, we're going to explore the challenges that we as leaders face when engaging with stakeholders. Leading today's session is Stephen Brown from Lights On Consulting, who will be chairing this session and who will bring you into the debate should you have any questions nearer to the end. So this session is live for everybody who's joining us today. And if you'd like to speak with Stephen or the additional panel members and ask them a question, there is functionality through the chat or the Q&A, which we'll be monitoring, which is at the bottom of the screen. So please do raise your hand. We will keep an eye on everything for you and bring those questions in. So now, moving forward, our chair of today, as I've indicated, is Stephen. He's spent a large part of his career in senior IT positions. He's got a deep understanding of how to help clients get the most out their investment in IT and ensuring delivery from the IT function. Since joining Lights On, he has supported a broad spread of legal and professional service firms with IT consultancy, I should say, strategy, IT reviews, IT leadership, and more beside that. So welcome, Stephen, and welcome everybody who has joined us now and to the panel. And I'm delighted to hand it over to you to take things through.
Thank you very much, Francis, and thank you to all those who have also joined us live. Well, first of all, wow, what a great session this looks to be. I had the pleasure of a briefing call on Friday, and the content is going to be superb. But it's not about me. I'm very privileged to welcome 3 other speakers that are going to be able to take us through this. So let's start with some introductions, and Daniel, I'll come to you first, then Karen, then Jill. So Daniel, if you can just give us a brief intro.
Thanks, Stephen. So I'm Daniel Solomon. I've been working at Lewis Silkin for the last 3.5 years. We're a mid-sized UK city law firm. We do a lot of employment work as well as a lot of work within the creative industry space. I have a legal background, paralegaled for a bit, and then started getting excited about technology and how it could be applied in the legal arena. And then I eventually moved into the legal tech side of things. At Lewis Silkin, I look after our client-facing technology. And so my team work quite closely with our colleagues and clients to build technology solutions using a whole range of tools so that we can meet our client needs. We've been on our generative AI journey for the last year or so, and we're at the stage of kind of beginning to use it for internal and external use cases to drive efficiency.
Great, thank you for that. And Karen, if I come to you next.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Karen Jacks. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Bird & Bird, which is an international law firm. We're around 3,500 users in 32 countries. It changes a bit, but at last count. So my role encompasses all of the traditional elements of IT, from infrastructure, training, finance systems, etc. But additionally, our legal tech and innovation team and our client solutions and delivery team. So we sort of see from the technology from all angles in this within my remit.
Great, thank you. Jill.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, thank you. Jill Shornack. I'm the VP of Product at NetDocuments. I have spent about 20 years, over 20 years in legal tech, and it all kind of feels like it's been building up to this moment in time, oddly enough, like this incredible moment of transformation in the legal space. So it's a really exciting time to be in product and legal tech. And at Documents, we are reimagining the legal workflow with an automation tool called Pattern Builder. And of course, its extension Pattern Builder Max, and that weaves together generative AI and our customers' kind of proprietary information stored in NetDocuments. So I've had quite a lot of conversations lately with a wide array of legal organizations kind of at all stages of their AI implementation journey. So it's a real pleasure to be on this panel today.
Great, and thank you to all of you. So the first question that we've thought about for this session, promises and pitfalls, the journey from automation to Gen AI. And sort of, I looked at that and thought, well, these IT leaders in front of me, they've all worked extremely hard over the past probably decade or so to really implement automation. Where are we now on this next journey of Gen AI? So Jill, do you want to start us off on that one?
Sure, yeah, happy to. Yeah, it is certainly a journey, isn't it? Everybody, is kind of in a moment of transition, it feels like, from one stage to another. And I've been seeing this shift in excitement, certainly as people are kind of moving from the early stages of learning how AI works, how it plugs into, automation, to this phase of now exploring what it can do, right? Kind of moving from that learning to doing stage. And, the promise of AI, talking about, the promise and the pitfalls. I mean, the promise of AI has been incredible. Driving efficiency and, if done securely, being able to leverage your prior work to inform your future work, like all of that is exciting. We've been talking about that promise, I feel like, for many years. And finally, the technology is mature enough to kind of make that a reality, which is super exciting. But the pitfall, from my perspective, I think is maybe a little less around the technology itself and a little bit more around the expectations. That's kind of what I've been finding is, AI isn't that easy button that everybody just wants it to be. And so kind of expecting to find that solution that's been predefined, pre-built for you, it's going to struggle to solve, your nuanced legal workflow, right? AI is an enabler. And I think we all need to remember that because, only you know the specifics of your workflow and what will really drive value in your organization. So only you can really unlock the full potential of AI. So I think like keeping, the excitement around that big promise, which I think is not just a reach, but certainly is within grasp, but understanding that the pitfall is, kind of that perception of needing to lean in, I think is really important.
So it's not just a matter of pressing a button. Karen, yeah. Where's your view on this?
So, I mean, I'm very excited by this whole space, but I also feel massively challenged by this whole space, both for, in some respects personally, and also on behalf of my team, because, we set out our strategy, we're going along quite nicely. We're already using AI in some other small niche products, all fine with that. We'd seen the hype from some years ago. And I feel that almost overnight, we were taken in a direction that I'm not sure we were entirely prepared for. And I'm not sure our internal customers, our users, were prepared for. And our external users, i.e. our clients, were prepared for. It has been a level of almost unprecedented hype with this one. And not just within the business world. I think it's because it's been so embraced within the consumer world that, it's not just legal press, it is mainstream media doing nothing but talking about the implications of this. So I do think part of my role is to embrace and support this, of course, but also to challenge and to try and manage people through this, the Gen AI gravy train that we're on, and sometimes to bring people back to, don't forget, there's still lots of really good products doing really good things. It's not all about Gen AI. And I think the automation piece that was in, that we talk about exploring the trajectory from automation to AI, there's still a very firm place in my mind for more traditional, and I'm avoiding legacy, traditional automation methods and tools. And we shouldn't get so obsessed with, well, it's Gen AI and nothing else. We should not just abandon lots of very good products and work that we've done in this space. There are obviously a huge amount of vendors in this space now. I'm fairly certain I speak to everyone with a similar role. It's every day there's someone new in here selling you a product that you think looks a bit like the one that you looked at the week before, but not quite sure. And that is challenging in itself, because we as an organization have tried to avoid just leaping into the first great product that has arrived, and being slightly more cautious and doing lots in this space, which we'll talk more on. But you can get some pressure just to think, well, there is the FOMO of, well, that firm there is doing it, and why aren't we? And I've found it quite hard, particularly in the initial times, to steer people away from these, what I feel in some respects has been vastly over-exaggerated expectations, in that if it's got AI, and particularly Gen AI, it can basically do anything, and we don't, we should just focus all our efforts there. And finally, I don't think we should underestimate the impact that this has on our workforce. We talk around, there are disruptive technology, and the issue, the impact it has on knowledge workers, which I'm including lawyers in that, I'm including that whole space. Anecdotally, you hear where particularly you've got younger lawyers coming up through, people looking to move into law and so on, massively considering, what does that mean for me and how I will work in the future? Because there is so much hype of, robot lawyers and the future lawyer and so on. And I think, it'd be wrong of us to underestimate that and be responsible about that. And I think that comes on to the responsible AI piece. We do need to be responsible to our people in helping to guide through how their roles may adapt or change, but have some reassurance that this isn't even if it can be transformational, there is still a role there for them.
Great, thank you. So, thinking about the impact, not all about the technology and the AI, but there is good technology hygiene. Daniel, really interested to hear your take on this question as well.
Yeah, so for me, the promise is just how excited people are getting, and the fact that they're talking about it. Clients are really interested in it, and what it unlocks as well. So for us, it's resolving a lot of use cases that people had come up with a while back, and they kind of thought of it as a fanciful dream. And generative AI has really sped along the thinking around those sorts of things. And then the other kind of big promise for me is just how quickly the technology is moving and how quickly products are adapting, with all the new language models, and just with the additional capabilities that they're able to unlock. That being said, I think one of the biggest pitfalls is actually forgetting some of the fundamentals around considering how both kind of the configurers and the people in the tech teams that are building out and configuring the platforms, and our end users will be using the solution. And so what they really need to do is deliver return on investment. We don't just want to kind of deliver generative AI for the sake of delivering generative AI. We want to make sure that there's purpose to that. So to that end, it's really important that we deliver products and solutions that combine really, really fantastic user experience alongside fantastic design. And, we also need to acknowledge who we're building these products for. The people that we're working with often have a lot of client work that needs to be prioritized. And so while they're curious and while they want to be using this technology on client matters, we need to show them that there's kind of real progress in what we're doing, and make sure that they feel comfortable that actually once we've built the thing that they're spending so much time on, it's going to start adding that value. If we provide something that's quite difficult to use, overcomplicated, or doesn't resolve the need, then actually there's no point, because the people won't use our solutions and they won't derive that value. Then the other kind of pitfall is just people seeing this as a complete golden bullet. We want to make sure that our lawyers and end users are actually checking the output, and that they kind of acknowledge that the solution won't be 100% perfect, and they work with us to refine that output. And then kind of, as Karen alluded to, because it is such a saturated space, we need to make sure that we're not just kind of jumping into a partnership with vendors. We need to be quite strategic about what we're doing. So similar to kind of what Karen's doing at Bird and Bird, actually we've made a very, very conscious decision to invest in a few partners and a few tools that have the versatility of unlocking multiple use cases that we can configure to kind of meet those use cases. And we feel confident that those vendors are adapting and innovating as change kind of happens so quickly, so that we don't have to constantly go to market.
Great, thank you. Jill, I'm going to come to you in a minute, because we're lucky that we've got a supplier stroke vendor on the call. So there was a lot of discussion there from sort of Karen and Daniel about, it's not just about AI, but it's also making it beautiful, making it easy to use, having good technology, not forgetting that. So I suppose there's two points to my question. The first one is, how are you responding with your supplier hat on to some of those needs around just getting the fundamentals right and making it beautiful, whilst also being innovative and delivering AI solutions? That's a bit of a tension. So over to you.
I mean, Daniel said it best, right? Like, it's just amazing how quickly things are changing in the AI landscape. Every day there's a new tool or a new capability that's unlocked that opens up a whole new slew of use cases, for example. So this is hands down the most rapid time of innovation I've experienced in legal tech, which is, worth waking up in the morning, because it is a lot of fun. But there's also a lot of considerations to take into account, right? Like, Karen said that you can't dismiss the amazing work that happens around automation, right? And what I've been seeing is a lot of AI solutions popping up, but they're point solutions. And Daniel said, making sure that it's part of the experience and not, kind of a standalone type of thing, and that it fits nicely into the kind of user, journey, the user experience is super important. And so what our challenge is, I think all of us, is to figure out how to take what is a really cool piece of enabling technology and embed it seamlessly into our users, into our, legal organization's workflow, so that it doesn't become that flash in the pan, like, ooh, this is a cool gadget, and then it's stuck in the drawer, right? It has to really be embedded into the day-to-day lives of our work, so that we can realize like that meaningful impact. And so from a product design perspective, that's a really important pillar for us, is we want to make sure that it's embedded into that workflow, that it's seamlessly experienced by the user. And that, from a NetDocuments perspective too, it's really nice to have that embedded into your document management system, where you can kind of seamlessly leverage your documents, your precedent, right? And so having that all built kind of natively together and experienced in that seamless way, that's a really important piece, I think, for customers and their considerations.
Great, thank you. I'm going to move us on to the next question, because we've got a few to get through. So the next question really was sort of focus on balancing client demands and delivery expectations. We've all been there. New tech has arrived. I think Karen said unprecedented hype is sitting around artificial intelligence at the moment. So we need to be careful that we're not promising the earth and just delivering soil. So as tech leaders, as thought leaders in this space, we've sort of been here before, dealing with technology and the hyperbole and so on and so forth. How are you now managing both the sort of client expectation and your internal expectations and demands as well? And Karen, if I can come to you first on this one, that'd be great. So over to you.
Yeah, sure. I think let's start with the clients. So I was at an event a few weeks ago, which had lots of organisations there and very few law firms. So it was actually quite refreshing to see a different view of it. And there was a whole discussion on Gen AI, and one particular organization there, the guy was very blunt, and he said, "I genuinely feel I'm doing nothing but chasing rainbows, both with my users and my law firms in this whole space." And other than I thought that was quite, I quite like that comment. It has been interesting to see. We have a complete spectrum from our client base. We are quite a tech-focused firm, so we have quite a lot of tech-focused clients or technology clients. And there is a whole spectrum from pitches coming in where they want to see real evidence of how you will introduce efficiencies, which potentially can quickly translate into reduce the bill, all the way, and want cast iron ideas on that and examples, all the way to the other end of the spectrum in, we do not want you to use Gen AI in the work that you're doing with us, and you must demonstrate how you are not doing that. So that's quite interesting in itself, in how we have to balance that and in some respects ensure that our internal users, where again we have a mix from some absolutely desperate for this technology and really want to get involved, through to the others that are quite less interested to disinterested in it, and working with them in, if you are working with this client, you can't be using this, or and that itself is proving interesting to manage. I think one slide, well, there's a couple of other bits on that. One is from a client perspective, if you are using these tools, you therefore can be more efficient, which you, as I said, can easily move on to therefore less or lower cost. However, the investment in some of these products, be it the product or the people, to actually get you into that position of being more efficient is not insignificant. So we've got a bit of a balance there where we have to invest to be able to get to the position of introducing efficiencies. And obviously we're all learning about this technology, considering it is evolving the whole time. So that's actually can be quite an interesting balance, because I don't think firms will be there yet, because they will still be doing what is quite a high investment. And then I guess, as I said, I've got a whole cohort of people that are desperate for this and all over it and just want everything. But even with those, that cohort, we will still have what is traditionally quite challenging in law firms is change. Everyone wants new tech, but nobody really wants to change or expect perfection. And of course, this whole landscape we're now working in is very experimental, changing the whole time. And for some, I think that will be almost, give me that end finished product, but I don't want to come with you on the journey.
All about the destination rather than the journey.
Yeah.
Daniel, you've got an insightful role thinking primarily about this question. So how is Lewis Silkin and your team sort of managing those expectations?
Yep. So our experience is actually very much like Karen's. It's a very blended and varied approach based on the client. So we are seeing most clients asking about this in RFPs and pitches, and actually linked to that, my team's kind of increasingly being asked to attend pitches and contribute to the discussion and showcase different platforms. And whereas previously that might have been and by the way, we can do this, what I'm seeing at the moment is that it's becoming a lot more front and center. So it's more, this is how we will and how we can deliver your services. At the moment, though, it's a little bit more general. When clients are asking for us to provide RFP responses, I think we're not quite there yet, where we get clients that say, we want to specifically do this, and how are you specifically meeting this use case for other clients? As Karen mentioned, we have got a few clients that are actually saying to us, if you want to use Gen AI, you need us on our work. You need to ask our permission first. And then, but I guess really at the moment, the prevailing question is actually on the internal side. So how are we using AI and generative AI internally to drive efficiencies that can be passed on to our end clients? We do have one or two clients that have kind of specifically said, can you upgrade some of your existing products in ways that incorporate generative AI so that they can leverage that in their existing ways of working? So that's particularly with some of our existing client portals. But that's really only one or two clients who are kind of very forward thinking. They're technology clients. So I think they're being asked from their high aboves, how are you incorporating generative AI into your work with your legal advisors? So yeah, in summary, that it's really a blend, and there's not one complete approach to it.
Right. Well, thank you for that. And again, Jill, I'm going to come to you in a second. There seems to be a trend coming out of both of those answers, which is clients asking for use of it, which is great because as a product set, you're leaning there. But there's a cohort also saying, no, we don't want our work or our lawyers or our work product going anywhere near this Gen AI tool. So that really does put a spotlight on provenance and governance of data and permissions. So if you could weave some of those thoughts into the expectation management. Sorry to put you on the spot. But first of all, let's pick up the question: expectation management, clients and externals, internals. Sorry, over to you.
Yeah, I think I can maybe just add on to what Daniel was saying, because I agree completely with that, like balance of the external, expectation with clients and the internal expectation. It all kind of boils down to, they want proof, right? It's like the chicken and the egg. They want, proven value, proven return on investment before they lean fully in, or they, can approve that AI will actually help deliver better client service. But we need them to engage in order to get that proof. And so it's that kind of, that cyclical nature, I guess. So I guess the key, I think, is finding that high value use case. That really is kind of the linchpin to getting that high value use case proven out, and to get that groundswell of excitement, both internally as well as externally. And so, we have to identify what use cases to focus on. And, there's legal research has proven a little bit risky, right? As you're kind of evaluating how to pull in primary law into that. And so I think what Daniel was saying was, makes a lot of sense to me, kind of starting with those internal use cases, proving that you can, drive greater productivity, greater efficiency, and using that as like a base case makes a lot of sense. We've seen that be kind of one of those initial areas of focus. And, really trying to lean into the folks who are excited. I mean, it's really interesting, right? Because a lot of times we'll have an internal tool that we're trying to create a business case for, within the legal organization. And you're reaching out to, attorneys saying, please take time out of your busy day to test out this tool and help us, build out that use case. But with AI, oftentimes they're putting pressure on the IT department, right? Onto the legal tech saying, where is the solution? Give me the solution. And I think a bit like the chicken and the egg, it's the collaboration. It's making sure that those who are asking for it are the ones who are leaning in and working together to identify those use cases, speeding it up, right? If you're engaged in defining the solution, it's going to get into your hands a lot faster.
Very, very much keeping people engaged throughout the process, which does bring us on to sort of the third point, really. And I will circle back to some of these other questions around providence and governance if we've got time at the end. There's a whole change piece here that we really need to give some focus to. And the third question very much was challenges with stakeholder engagement and internal learning journey. So we've already had a couple been raised, change, the the aiming for perfection in everything that we do, rather than this technology which is fail fast, learn quickly sort of thing. So Daniel, thinking about in your role again, and all of the panel, sorry, how are we managing this change process and bringing people on, which is right at the forefront of technology, quite innovative, but it's quite a steep change. So how are you doing it?
Yeah, so personally, I think one of the challenges is because the capabilities are so broad, it's really important to focus people's minds and actually think about, we can do this now. We've got the ability to do things that we weren't able to do previously. So the way that I've gone about it, as we've kind of found use cases and actually as we're learning the technology's capabilities ourselves, is I found that the best friend approach has worked really well. So, and the way to do that is to, it's just through good old fashioned relationship building. So some of our kind of most successful applications have actually just come from a conversation at the coffee machine. And particularly given that my team's centralized rather than aligned to specific teams, having those organic conversations with people where you kind of say, what are the challenges that you're facing? Or, what kind of work has you been doing? I see it as kind of my team's business development and how we win our work. And just kind of during that phase, and when you've got those relationships with people, I really try to not overpromise and underdeliver. I tend to try and kind of play down the capabilities and say, look, let's give it a go. Let's try and do this thing. And then if it works, amazing. If it doesn't work, then we try something else, or we try to iterate and build on that failed experiment. So once we've kind of done that, and once we've got that initial seed of an idea, I'll speak to people, other people, kind of show them what we've done before, and they'll kind of use that to help iterate on their initial idea. They'll think about, is that use case the right one, or are there other use cases within their business area that we need to prioritize? And we work through that problem, we trial the outputs, we make mistakes, and we iterate and fix those mistakes. And then we eventually will tend to, if it's a product that we're releasing to a wider group of people, typically we'll release with a very small subgroup of people within that practice area. And then they'll provide their feedback, we'll iterate again. So the old fashioned kind of design, build, test, deploy method. And then only once we're comfortable will we release to the wider practice area. If it's on a specific client use case, we'll do most of that, and then we'll deploy it on that specific use case and on that specific matter. And then what we do is we say to the fee earner that's championed it and helped us build it, look, shout about it. So we had an example where we had one fee earner that was, and actually using Jill's product, Pattern Builder, we had an example where we saved a ridiculous amount of hours just by simple automation. And that just, the fee owner got a lot of credit for that because she was the one that really championed it. And then she started shouting about it. And we really saw a snowball effect where more and more people asked us to build applications for similar matters. And as a result, kind of that's been a real steady stream of work. Where we are now is we actually have a bank of really interesting, quite versatile solutions actually that we've built using real client work rather than just some of the hypotheticals that we had at the beginning. So now we're beginning to be a little bit more formal in sharing internally what we've done with wider departments, talking about the return on investment that we've kind of derived from what we've built. And that in turn is encouraging that further usage and adoption. And actually, I was having a conversation with our managing partner yesterday, thinking about how we can kind of really accelerate what we've been doing and showcasing, to the firm that we're here and we can really add value to your ways of working and help you deliver more for less for your clients.
Great, thank you. So a bit of recap there. I liked, even with this greatest and most amazing tech, there's still the good old-fashioned, automation, having a coffee, good communication. Karen, I'm just going to put you on pause just for 1 second because we have got a question. So it feels like we really should bring in, I think it's Caitlin. Caitlin, you've got a question for the panel. You might have to unmute yourself. Or we might have to ask NetLaw to unmute you. Okay, just while we're dealing with unmuting issues and sound, which is always good fun in a virtual meeting, isn't it, Karen? But let's get your view on this. Caitlin, just hold on to your question. If needs to be, post it into the chat. Karen, over to you, please, then. So just to recap, how are you managing the change process?
Yeah, okay. So we've tackled this a number of ways. I mean, to be fair, it was already moving, we didn't have to start from scratch on this. It was sort of well and away gained its own momentum. But we've done a number of things. So one thing that we did across the whole international network, we did a hackathon, come with an idea that we think Gen AI we could create a Gen AI product for. And even though I think we had probably 8 teams submit ideas, in the come and find out more about it, we had a huge response. I mean, people just kept coming, and we ran a big webinar. We got our guy in my team who is very good at explaining quite complex technology to people, sort of to do a session and get them thinking about it. It was supported by one of my developers, and off everyone went. And we came up with some great ideas, some of which have been turned into solutions. But that really got everybody interested. Now, those people were already quite interested. But we have found that it's organically growing across the firm, the interest. So to give you an example, we have a legal tech focus group. We've been running this now 18 months or so. We meet every 6 weeks. We invite lawyers or other people from around the firm, business services, to come and talk about something interesting, being an interesting case using enabling technology with the client, or something they've seen at another firm and how they've brought it in and worked with us to develop, to talk about a particular type of tech that we've just introduced, or even to talk about tech we've already got that people might have forgotten about. So Gen AI was not always on the topic list, is slightly more now. And even though we'd promoted this, we had like 100 or so people. We invested in Copilot and bought about 350 licenses. And when we were working out who we wanted into that group, we said, I know, let's start with the legal tech focus group. And we will have everyone on there because they're already very interested in this, and their EAs or PAs, so that they can work together, and then other people that were generally interested in a bunch of VIPs. And all of a sudden, there was this flurry of activity with everyone wanting to join this group to come and, basically to get an early adopter license of Copilot. But hey, it's increased that group, but it also showed that there was obviously lots of talk about this across our network, because people were, it was a real flurry. When we gave out the initial tranche of Copilot licenses, we said we won't give them to anyone until they fill in a very short survey. So if you don't fill in the survey about who you are, what you want to get out of this, what support you want, you don't get the license. And a partner commented that has got to be the quickest way of getting a survey answered in this firm ever. But what was great from that as well is that we asked about how do you want to learn more about this? Do you want training? Do you want e-learning? Do you want webinars? And actually there was a strong vote for peer learning. And I think that's what's been really key here, is that people are learning from each other. They're talking about this. They're talking about how they've tried different things, and they're sharing it with their colleagues. And obviously we need to try and scoop all that up into something that we can take forward. We've approached learning also not just as training, but as education and learning. So we've worked with an external provider who came in and did a kind of under the bonnet. So it wasn't press this, press that type training. It was, this is what you need to know to have a credible and sensible conversation with your client and with your teams, and to get you thinking about what you could use this technology for. And that was really well received, and we're kind of repeating that around. One thing, even though we really didn't want to do this, we have ended up with an advisory group, which is another committee, and we really let's not have another group. But actually, this is all around making sure that everyone is being given consistent messaging, opportunity for education. We're embedding it more into sort of our curriculum and our future leaders and so on. And just to ensure that we are doing all of this responsibly. And I know I've said responsible AI more than once on this call, but it is pretty fundamental to what we're doing. We do need to be responsible about how we use this. We do need to use guardrails. We do need to think about how we're using it and how we're talking about it. So we very much see that group in a supporting role rather than you can't do this or you can do that. And it's also to try and help straighten out priorities, because you'll have 10 people asking, I've got this idea. We have to work out what we think will be A, the most viable, and B, the most value. And sometimes we need a little bit of help with that. So it also helps work with, again, the client messaging and the communications and what we're saying about ourselves. It's sort of drawing all that together. So as I said, we've tackled this in a number of ways, but actually it was very self-starting.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, Karen, for that. So hackathons, investments, peer learnings. I love the thought of putting a survey in front of licenses. Great idea. I'm sure a few people will be stealing that. Jill, let's get your view back. Just before you begin, Jill, there are a couple of questions in the chat. I've seen them. We'll come to those just after your comment as well. So over to you, Jill.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, wow, that was a great list of initiatives. Karen, I also think that tying the survey to Copilot license is absolutely brilliant. I bet people will steal that. And in addition, encouraging them to submit use cases, right, and ideas, what a fantastic way, because Copilot is pretty cool. It's a general agent, right, and it will field questions from users, and it will provide answers based on the large language model or data in the graph or content in your M365 apps, but it's not specialized, right? And I think a lot of people will experience that pretty quickly as they try and do kind of downstream actions like legal specific tasks, for example. So it needs to be interoperable with specialized agents or tools, right? And so getting the use cases collected on what those tools need to be, what those legal specific use cases are, I love that. I love that tie together. So that's really cool. And then Dan, I'm hearing so many great things. I'm trying to tie them all together because Daniel, I think you called it the best friend strategy. Is that what you called it? Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Love that. I love that because it really is identifying the champion, right? Identifying a best friend who will talk with you, will have conversations with you. And that's what I'm seeing, across most organizations that I've spoken with about their approach to AI. They'll find that champion, right? And it's oftentimes sparked in the knowledge management team, which I find super interesting. I think, Karen, you mentioned this even earlier, right? Super empowering time for the KM group, because it's this evolution of their role, from curating best practices and putting them into, a folder and hoping people access it, to, embedding it into workflow, to actually creating those workflows and taking precedent and embedding it into it and making sure that it's always part of the workflow of the organization, like that's a very empowering time, right? And so we see them leaning in and getting excited about wanting to identify those use cases. For other organizations, I think it's finding a business analyst or someone who can really map the process or, the business or practice area processes, because that way they can really kind of pinpoint where AI can really help accelerate or enrich those workflows. And then, as I talk with maybe some smaller firms, and not always, it kind of ranges, but, finding that lawyer, that fee earner who's super leaned in, who's your best friend, who can pinpoint that use case, and then build the groundswell, because, as Daniel said, right, like it's not only going to change their world, right, and make their lives easier, but it can be it can be a great brand builder for them professionally as well. And so, being able to take credit for that type of innovation is a really great thing. So finding people who will be your best friend, help you identify use cases, kind of map out that workflow, is going to be mutually beneficial to them, but also to the full organization. So like, I don't think I said anything new there, but wow, really great ideas from you both.
Keep it very narrow, keep it focused on those use cases, definitely. Kathleen, are you able to join us now on mute, or questions come in? We have got some questions in the chat. So just while Netlaw just looking at that, I'll just frame this question. And Karen, Daniel, really interested to get your viewpoints on this. And question number 2, I think, will fall nicely for Jill. So the first one is the first question, which is based on 2 parts. So AI strategy. Is it client-driven? Is it internal management-driven? Where do you see that driving force for an AI strategy? And I'm going to ask you to keep this within a sort of 30 to 60 seconds. So, Daniel, why don't you start the ball rolling on this one?
So for me, in the most unhelpful answer possible, it's a bit of all of those things. Okay. The directive has to come from the top. You have to have the support from the top that kind of says, this is what we want to do. This is the kind of approach that we want to take. So from our side of things, that approach was, rather than pilot and invest in every single technology that we see, we're going to partner with a very select few number of vendors that we can then kind of build a quite wide range of solutions on. But then, of course, it has to be client-led as well. So we have to listen to our clients and do things that adds value to them. And if that is a case of a client coming to us and saying, can you do this thing? And it's not something we can necessarily do, then we'll go away and we'll look to see what can be done to meet that need.
Right. Okay. And thank you for keeping it short. Karen, coming to you. Agree, disagree?
No, I wouldn't disagree. I think just specifically here, we are approaching it both from a client and an internal perspective. Where I'm quite fortunate is I have a partner here who sees it from both perspectives. So that's been brilliant working with him, because he's super interested in the tech. He's very scientific about the science and very knowledgeable about the science behind it, has lots of interested clients, and can see, he was sort of behind the hackathon that we did and so on. So it is addressing both. I do think it's fair to say that any AI strategy, you're going to have to make it very agile, because products you're looking at today, you won't be in a few months, or they won't look like they look today. So we're being really quite fluid in this.
Right. Okay. So I think that answers the question. Where's the driving force coming from? Well, it's both internal, external, client and management, but keep it short. The 5-year, 3-year strategy probably isn't applicable for this technology. And ironically, with all things IT management, it's not binary, so it's not one or the other. Jill, and a question that's probably driving more at some of the sort of product-based AI. So if I come to you with this one, if we've got a client, let's say in energy, and we've got a client in perhaps banking, to corporate clients, very different needs, different requirements. How can AI answer their questions which is surely a yes, but how is that going to be possible? And if there's time, Daniel and Karen might come to you on provenance and governance, but Jill, from a product lens.
Yeah, it's a great astute question, because you're totally right. Like, summarizing documents or querying a document, very high level type of use cases that you'll hear all the time for the application of AI. But when you get to the specific use case, when you get to the banking workflow, right, or the real estate workflow, like the way that it needs to be applied is going to be very different. The types of questions you're going to ask, the type of output that you're seeking, and so my recommendation there is to adjust your expectations, right? Trying to find an AI solution off the shelf that's going to solve all of those individual problems is going to be really tricky. So look for a tool, right? AI is a tool, and you need to embrace the fact that, you have that knowledge of your workflow. You need to kind of look for a solution that allows you to maintain that control, right? And to be able to apply that information, that knowledge into how AI is being deployed. And, I'll say it, NetDocuments is the only game in town, right, to be able to create custom AI tools. So I think that's a really important thing that I recognized in the needs of our customers, and is a really key pillar to the way that we bring AI to market to our customers.
Great, thank you. We'll let you get away with the NetDocs promotion.
Sorry, that was shameless, wasn't it? But it's really important. It's critical.
Yeah. That's it. I tell you what, we'll take the last question, and then if there's a bit of time at the end, Daniel and Karen, it'd be great to get your views on that one as well. So, advancing efficiencies within your firm, and of course, without giving away any trade secrets, where are you focusing your sort of Gen AI? Is it operational efficiencies? Is it excellence? It sounds like it's a bit of everything, but if there's anything where you can be specific, clearly, without putting you on the spot, that would be great. Who have not come to first? So Jill, you did last. Karen, I think it's probably your turn to go first. So Karen, over to you.
Yeah, no problem at all. So I've already talked about what we're doing on Copilot, which we see very much as, it's your office assistant, isn't it? Whatever that paperclip used to be, a much more modern version of that. We're looking at lots of different, tech that we can bring in as tech. But we've done some nice little things internally. They're not transformational, but they're neat, and I think that's fine. And I don't think anyone should be afraid of just going, well, look, we've dealt with this. So we work with our diversity and inclusion team, who were keen to see if we could look at products to help with the phonetic of people's names. We've obviously across the whole world, and there are a lot of people who get very frustrated when no one seems to pronounce anyone's name properly, and there are various where you can generate that, but we've done a neat little using Gen AI, which is say my name, and that can now be embedded in people's signatures, so that if you are helping someone to record your own. We've just done lots of little bits with clients, but they are all for client work. They are reusable, and they're also great use cases to get people thinking. So, for example, we have looking at scientific data sheets where you then have to extract codes, if it's this and it's the first two characters of this particular code is this, and so on. A really tedious, horrible job for someone sitting there literally going through all these different data sheets, which are all completely formatted differently, and they're all in different languages. And we've managed to bring all those in and just now generate these very complex codes, and that's been done with a little bit of Power Automate and a bit of Gen AI, or ChatGPT. I'm
just going to cut across just to bring the others in, if that's okay. Yes, great ideas. I love the fact small and neat, and then use some and do something that's reusable. Yeah. Daniel, where's your view on this? Where are you using Gen AI?
So from our perspective, we've kind of split it into three. So we started off looking at the more general internal usage. Then once kind of people were comfortable with that, we started focusing on delivering solutions that helped us kind of on specific client work and client projects. And now our thinking's kind of more towards how can we combine our generative AI solutions with our other client collaboration technologies so that we can deliver a really sleek user experience where clients are using kind of the generative AI tools themselves. So just to kind of give you an example of each of those, on the kind of general internal usage, that's things like summarization, translations, basic extraction, drafting assistance, and other quick wins like that. So for example, a lot of time was being spent by paralegals within our international employment practice, collating, reviewing, and standardizing kind of international legal updates provided by some of our international partner firms. And that took a lot of time. I think it was around 100 hours, just getting all of that information in the right format that we could then provide to clients. Using generative AI for the standardization piece, just by giving it a fairly simple, uniform prompt, we saved a huge amount of time. And that time was all non-chargeable. So it just led to it wasn't the most exciting job for the paralegals. And there was a huge opportunity cost of doing that instead of something else. So by leveraging generative AI, actually those paralegals were able to do something A, more exciting, B, bringing more money into the firm, and C, they were able to do more work. And then an example of the second piece. So using generative AI to review specific information provided by our client, and then using that information, we're able to draft legal documentation referencing the facts of the specific matter at hand. And now kind of moving that step further, we're looking at kind of how we can build solutions for our clients to using technologies like HiQ that have been around for ages. How can we use generative AI within HiQ and other solutions like that, so our clients can really see the benefit without even having to necessarily engage us all the time?
Great. Thank you. So 3 interesting different channels, and Jill, I think you'll get the last word on this. Over to you.
You love getting the last word. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's about, participating in those types of discussions, right? Those types of ideation sessions. It's all about rapid innovation for me. So like, we're going to continue to, enrich, unlock new capabilities, all those things. But I'm really focused on kind of equally supporting that journey, as we bring the tech, to market. So to that end, we often lead these workshops where we help, map out workflows, identify those high value use cases, kind of do the brainstorming and find the best way to focus and to start, as Daniel said, like finding those repetitive or mundane tasks, but can really help save time and refocus people's energy towards higher value work. I get really excited about the creativity that I hear from so many customers, right? Like there is so much excitement. The time is now to tap in to all of that excitement and get people's creative juices flowing and understand, how AI is going to help. So I just think like that important thing to keep in mind is like AI isn't something that's done for you, it's done with you, right? So lean in and you're really going to unlock a lot of potential. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Great, thank you. And you've kept us very nicely to time. So I appreciate that. And thank you to all of our panel as well. Well, at the beginning, I said, this is going to be a great session. I've been absolutely blown away by just some of the things that the panel has brought to our attention and some of the exciting projects and initiatives that they're both embarking on. So thank you all to your input in making this a really interesting discussion. Thank you also to all of our guests who have very kindly participated and asked good questions, etc. Thank you to Legal Tech Talks produced by Net Law Media, and for Francis for the very kind introduction to this afternoon's session as well. So for me, it's been a pleasure hosting. Hopefully we've kept everybody to time and we've covered all of the points. Thank you to Net Documents as well for being part of this. And please do not forget to subscribe to today. You can re-watch this recording and also join future discussions. So with that, I think we'll close the session.